Nigeria. A brand new day is here, and it's Tuesday, the 10th of February. This is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, where the stories that matter begin the day. I am Anolu Akbo Ido.
And I am Samson Balogun. This morning we are setting the agenda with clarity, context, and conversations that go beyond the headlines, helping you understand not just what's happening, but why it matters to you.
Absolutely. We begin this morning with a daybreak gist that has stirred intense debate both locally and internationally. A United States broadcaster has claimed they denied Nigeria's First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu a media platform alleging it would have been used to cover up Christian genocide in Nigeria. The statement has raised serious questions about perception, diplomacy, and the global narrative surrounding Nigeria's security challenges.
We'll examine the context of that claim, what it means for Nigeria's image abroad, and conversations it has sparked at home.
After that, we bring you the Daybreak News, keeping you informed on the key national developments shaping your morning.
And we'll turn to newspaper headlines and analysis, where public affairs analyst and entrepreneur Emmanuel Oladele Abiola joins us to unpack today's front pages and the narratives driving public opinion around the country.
Our big story this morning focuses on one of Nigeria's most contentious policy discussions, the NNPC refinery saga. Waste, strategy, or political cover?
Joining us for that conversation this morning is Amuda Musigbodi, researcher and public affairs analyst, and we'll be examining the facts, the figures, and the political implications behind the refinery debate.
Refinery, something important to talk about.
Absolutely.
We'll also bring you Trend Watch, tracking the issues Nigerians are debating across digital and social spaces today.
All right, it's a morning of accountability, insight, and context on this dial.
Stay with us. Daybreak Live starts now. Tom.
It starts anyway, regardless. Good
morning to you, Samson.
Really nice to be back here.
Yes, a beautiful day again.
But then, as we always say, the airlines are always new. You know, even if it develops, it's still new because people have a lot to munch on and discuss. But definitely, this one is not slowing down. About Remi Tinubu and, you know, a popular U.S. broadcaster who said, look, I decided and I did not give a platform to propagate, you know, what people will call soft power in America. But definitely, you know, I feel it's in several ways. You might just want to think about it with different perspectives. As a broadcast journalist, you give, regardless of the situation, you give them platforms. It now depends on the kind of questions you're asking.
You ask them.
Right? So you might just, you can bring someone on board thinking you are giving them the opportunity to tell the world their own side of the story, the way they want to tell it. But then when they get to the platform, you know what exactly you want to ask them. So it now depends on that person to be able to put that information out there, right? But then that depends on what you're asking them. So I think it was wrong to say I denied them platform, right? Everyone deserves to be heard, and no one should serve as a tool to actually keep some people silent. We know that you know, recently it has not been that rosy with Nigeria as a country, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and definitely the Nigerian people when it comes to the world outlook, how people see Nigeria as a country. And you know, whether you like it or not, these things are happening. Now it depends on the narratives being pushed out there. So are we having the right narrative out there? That's the question. And we wouldn't sit here and be the judge ourselves, right? We must have a level playing field for everyone. Okay, you have something to say, yes, come say it. If the people have a different opinion, we are going to ask you questions based on what people are saying, all right? If you can defend it, so be it. But I was really not too cool with the fact that someone came out to say, I mean, that amounts to discrediting not just the First Lady, but the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And right. that tells us how important what we have in Nigeria should really matter to us and how well we should develop our country. You can imagine if Nigeria has you know, such a very big platform, or big platforms where you can propagate what is going on in your country, and they are being supported. They are not being, you know, kept under wraps, right? You really don't have to be out there. In fact, they will be sourcing for information from local media. But unfortunately, this is what we are seeing. Nigeria is in a state where the local media seem to be not enough. to push the Nigerian narrative out there. So you need a platform outside the country, and look at what we are seeing. I think it's a lesson to every leader out there, that regardless of what you are doing, regardless of how rich you want to become, whether you want to siphon money or you want to be rich overnight as a politician, there has to be a local platform, right? When it comes to business, when it comes to media, health, anything, there should be a local platform. We must not rely on international platforms to get things done.
Well, I wasn't seeing it from that angle until you mentioned the fact that if we look at it from the perspective of being an affront to Nigeria, an affront to the First Lady of the country, then we beg the question, when the broadcaster, Tony Perkins said that, the common question, the popular question should have been that, would you have denied a United States administrator or someone in the party, or maybe
a platform?
Exactly. Would you have denied them a platform? And it also begs the question of how Nigeria is being perceived in the outside world. I mean, the outside community and all of that. I also wanted to ask the question from Tony Perkins. If you say this, are you really doing justice, or are you doing right by journalism?
That's not journalism.
Because it's unethical to say you are denying. It's not that the people are the people you're working for. You're working for the masses.
People want to hear from you.
Yes. So the information you are sharing, or whatever will be shared on your platform, is not about you. So if you say I or we denied, that's more like you're robbing people of a chance to listen to her. I mean, everybody, even in the court of law, if someone kills someone, he has the right to a lawyer, right? So he has the right to be heard, like you mentioned. It's a constitutional, right of everybody to be heard, even if it's going to be a wrong thing. There was a time an international person also had a conversation with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, and more like he was saying that he was lying on national television. It was, and I didn't like the whole stuff, how it came about, because he was asking questions, and Yusuf Tugar was trying to answer, but he was cutting in and saying, I think you're lying. I think what you're saying is different. But it's all about, well, we understand while, let me now get back to what I intend to say about that particular. So let me take it a step away from what happened with Oluremi Tinubu, and let's talk about the real issue about the Christian genocide. There's been so much talks about it, but I think one of the things that happened was, after Donald Trump made that comment or described Nigeria as a country of peculiar or particular concern, if you like, it ruffled many feathers, and a lot of persons were questioning many things, right? Some did not see, others have known, but now it brought it out. It made a lot of noise about it, and then it raised dust as well. But one thing I want to say, I was remembering something when I was little. There was a local lamp that we use. They call it atukpa in Yoruba. And there's a saying that atukpa can read diary. Like a lamp would not see the bottom, because the surface area is more like a cup like this. So if you place it where it's placing, the surface area it is, it will be, yes, there will not be light there. It's just to tell that even when you drive, you should understand why long vehicles put it at the back. Long vehicle. This is long. They're telling you if you want to overtake at your risk.
It's not saying that the rear that much, so you have to be careful.
Yes. So that's exactly where I'm going. Because there's a point you drive to when you try to overtake that will become a blind spot for that long vehicle. If I've seen a lot of cases like that where they say, that guy, he chased us out of the road. No, he didn't chase you. He can't see you from that. It's called a blind spot, right? And it's also true of humans. I have blind spot that I don't see. I have places that are not so well that I need to work on. And someone else will see and will tell me, which is okay to do. And just the same goes for politics, for government, for leaders. There are blind spots of every administration. Talk about the U.S. current administration, there are a lot of issues also. The Donald Trump administration. Talk about any government. There's always a blind spot for every administration. It makes a lot of sense if people see it, but what really matters is not really the awareness of the wrong. It's the ability to help to better that wrong. If anybody can see my wrongs, anybody can say anything about it, but how many persons can bring constructive ideology or criticism to say, oh, this is one thing I think you should do? But that's exactly the case. I'm saying there's a blind spot of this administration. United States brought it out to say, okay, there's something you should do about this, and they are even collaborating, which is a good thing. But I also wanted to mention that I think the current administration should not see this as an affront, should not see this as an attack on their personality or the government, because some have now attributed it to say a lot of things are happening at this time because some want the president out. That is not, I won't say that's a lie. I won't say that's not existing or that's not even a reality in some corners. But I'm saying that much more than that, let's look at this issue also. If someone has said, I know there's something that you need to fix, let's look at it together and let's fix it. Because But the narrative will still continue if we don't really do what we're supposed. Because some have also blamed this government. They have blamed them to be complicit to many of these crimes, these insurgents and all of this.
It's about the body language.
You get. So that's exactly the case for many. But that's why they don't want to believe this administration is doing enough. In fact, the U.S. government recently said again, I think one of their representatives said that, oh yes, I'm not sure Nigerian governments are doing enough. They need to do more. Because we are now seeing this. It's now coming in numbers. There are many people dying, and some of them are, linked to genocide one way or the other. Even if it's not a Christian genocide, it's going to be a Muslim kind of genocide. So there's been that conversation of genocide. But what is the Nigerian government doing? Instead of being interested in passing or talking about this thing, let's work. Really, let's work. They talk. I mean, how do they put it? Let's do the real job. Not just. I know it's okay to go out there to speak about it, but I also wanted to quickly refer to what the president, the first lady said, the wife of the president said when she visited during the prayer meeting conference in the U.S. and then the United States president said, "Oh yeah." And maybe made a comment about Tinubu. I didn't like the fact that the first lady was happy about it because I saw it in the news where she was saying, "Oh yes, our leaders are not being respected in our home, but if you go outside the world, they respect us." That she was surprised that the U.S. president noticed her, and I was asking, really, is it really about noticing you, or I mean, because he could. If you say she's a well-respected or she's a respected person, which that's okay, but that's not really what will bring salvation to the country, if so to say.
We just spoke about respect. We spoke about world outlook. How do people see you out there? How other countries see you? How individuals from other countries see your country and even see your people out there. You also mentioned about Yusuf Tuga having an interview, and then a broadcaster was, blatantly telling him he was lying on national TV, on international television, let me put it that way. That was an insult, an affront to the Nigerian state, being the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And, one of the things you have to first strive for as an administration that just came to power is world recognition. How are people seeing you out there? So when they see you, it becomes very easy for you to get a bilateral agreement that suits your country from these people. And, no country can survive alone. I mean, no country is an island. You can't have it all. Even the U.S. signs agreements with all other countries and say, look, you have this, we have this, let's exchange. I mean, it could be intellectual exchange. Oh, you have this particular thing, oh, we have this, let's exchange. I mean, how do you say about the U.S. putting up a form of entry into America and say, look, we need nurses, we need doctors, and they're coming in. It's an exchange, right? If you don't know how best to put these things you have to use, some countries will come for it, right? That's exactly what you see where you talk about brain drain in the Nigerian system. Even teachers are being moved to some countries. I know that English teachers, for example, from Nigeria are moving to China, they are moving to Korea, and I think Turkey too. Yes, they moved to Turkey too. You know why? Because they are in demand there. If they are not being recognized or being given the kind of respect they deserve in their country, they leave. And that is exactly the same thing with international power. You gain recognition. You bring yourself to prominence. And the moment you are there, it is easy for you to negotiate deals, right? You can imagine if for a country that is still being ravaged by war, as we speak, and then you want to negotiate with a country like Russia, you'll be at a disadvantage because they know they are helping you outrightly. Right? They see the deal you are signing, the bilateral agreements, as a way of helping you as a country. In fact, some of them might even consider it an hate. But the truth of the matter is, you're also bringing something to the table, right? But the thing is, if the First Lady saw it as, as a plus, and of course sees it as an achievement to be recognized by the President of the United States, I think it has to be on a personal level. As a country, I think we should have grown beyond that particular level. And you also mentioned something, about broadcasting. You see, there is ethical broadcasting, and there is something we might also call, broadcasting of necessity. You see, when you chase clout, right, you might do broadcasting of necessity. Oh, this is what I want to do right now, and it is necessary for me to chase clout, you'll do it. I mean, we've seen people, express that on TV, on national TV, everywhere. But the truth of the matter is, eventually, what do you stand to profit? Degrading people and then bringing them down just because you want to gain clout. The remark, for me, sounded more. You have said it shouldn't be more or less like, but it sounded more like a disrespect to Nigeria as a country. And I'm still going back to my point. As a country, promote your own. I think there was a time they say buy Naira, grow Naira, right? You know, you buy things from Nigerians, you pay in Naira, it strengthens your currency. That's exactly why you patronize Nigerian media. You put information out there. Even international media will be looking and sourcing for details from the local media. Otherwise, you continue to chase them while you are killing the local media. And it has repeated itself over and over again. Past administrations have done it. They need validation from international media. The moment there is something happening in the country, once they have not been on those channels, they feel they have not done anything. They feel nobody is listening to them. And that's totally wrong. You can do it within, the confines of your country, provided you are promoting and championing the cause of giving voice to the voiceless. And that's the basics. You can imagine it's just as good as you going to other countries and importing cars, and you produce cars in Nigeria too. I mean, you manufacture cars. So how do you compare? I mean, does your economy intend to thrive when you are putting all your eggs in one basket out there? So Nigeria is at a disadvantage. And I do hope that an administration will come, or probably this administration, that will notice the necessity to strengthen local media. Otherwise, Nigeria is not doing enough when it comes to... We have spoken about every administration that has come on board since 2003, right? 1999, let me put it that way. One thing they have not gotten right is disseminating information. You might be doing so much, but yet people will consider it as... It's not about saying... You can use the big words to give information, but then, do the people who really need this information understand what exactly you are doing out there? I was talking to someone yesterday from a particular community and was saying, oh, they said by the end of March, they'll be taking money from our accounts. I was like, who told you that? That's the interpretation of what Oloide has been saying, that she has. What if someone comes and breaks it down in proper Yoruba, proper Igbo, proper Hausa, and people will understand in details what exactly is going on in the country? Otherwise, people will think, oh, he's doing nothing. Oh, these decisions are against the people. It's anti-people. And then you see the elite coming to plug into that lacuna to propagate, unnecessary details about the administration out there. And until that is corrected, we are still going to be going around the same circle.
Let me just speak on one of the things you said. I think you've made the right point by saying there's a disconnect between the government's bodies
and the people.
And exactly. So even the parastatals, the government agencies and ministries are not really connected to, because I never thought it this way, that we could have that translation of the new tax reform in every of the languages. What is National Orientation Agency doing about that? That's something I think we should put it forward to them, really. It's something to think about. Instead of just 747, I'm tired of that particular 747. We've seen it enough. Please give us something else. Give us something in Yoruba, Hausa, and English.
Other languages.
And every other languages. I mean, it's so that people can understand. Because at the end of this, it's about the people. Or is it not? If it's about the people, then do it for the people. Right? I also wanted to make a mention of something very quickly. And it was the fact that there's a way that you do so much that you are even tired of talking. And then international media would look out for you to say, there's something you are doing, I would like to speak about it. Instead of just saying that I'm looking for a platform. If we really tighten our loose ends, I'm saying that even these Tony Perkins and the likes would want to have a conversation. They would write to you, you would deny, because you are busy doing what you're doing.
Let me quickly cite an instance. As a publisher, right? If there's a story out there that you think the people would love to read, I mean, you don't need anybody to pay you before you publish.
You can even pay to get the story.
You can pay to get the story. That's what I'm saying. So you get scoop, not because they are paying you to put it out there, but because you feel like this will generate traffic for me. And you look for it anywhere. But unfortunately, if you are not doing the right thing, you continue to chase the media. And that's the point. So instead of chasing the media, make the media chase you. And of course, they will look for you.
Walk the talk. Focus on the job.
That's it. Well, it's a fine place to leave that particular conversation. Let's help you navigate the day and see what exactly weather looks like across the country this morning. And we'll be starting with the ancient city of Ibadan and the Pace-Setter state. Weather in Ibadan, as we speak, feels like 31 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will drop to 29 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 9%. And in the afternoon, it will rise again to 33 degrees Celsius, remaining mostly cloudy at 24%. It will be cloudy in the evening, 26 degrees Celsius, 24%. And overnight, it will be 24 degrees Celsius, cloudy at 8% right here in Ibadan today.
I'll take a few kilometers walk to Lagos from Ibadan now. Lagos, the weather feels like 33 degrees Celsius across board. And later in the morning, it drops to 29 degrees Celsius with the promise of thunderstorms, of course, like we had yesterday in some parts of the country. And later in the afternoon, it rises by just 1 degree Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius, and it's also expected to be mostly cloudy. Then scattered thunderstorm is also promised in the evening at 28 degrees Celsius. And overnight, it drops by 2 degrees Celsius to become 26 degrees Celsius, and it's expected to be cloudy today in Lagos today.
All right, I'm moving on to still in the south, but in the south, and that is talking about Edo State, Benin. Weather in Benin City right now is currently like 25 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning it will rise to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 7%. It will remain mostly cloudy in the afternoon at 31 degrees Celsius, 24%. And also mostly cloudy in the evening, 25 degrees Celsius at 9%, while it will be cloudy overnight at 24 degrees Celsius and 23% right there in Edo State today.
And I'll still stay around southwest. Of course, this is Abeokuta South, Ogun State, Nigeria, because the weather feels like 31 degrees Celsius across board. And later in the morning, it drops, by 2 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. Expected to be mostly cloudy at 10% relative humidity right there. And of course, later in the afternoon, it rises to 33 degrees Celsius. Expected to be mostly cloudy as well at 17% relative humidity. And later in the evening, it drops to 27 degrees Celsius with a promise of scattered thunderstorms. So get ready for showers maybe in Abeokuta South. And of course, overnight, it drops much further by 2 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy at 8% humidity today in Abeokuta South, Ogun State.
All right, moving on to Cross River in Calabar this morning. Weather in Calabar currently feels like 24 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise by 5 notches to 29 degrees Celsius, while being mostly cloudy at 17%. It will remain mostly cloudy in the afternoon, 30 degrees Celsius at 21%. In the evening, it will drop to 24 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 11%, while it will also be mostly cloudy overnight, 24 degrees Celsius, maintaining the evening status at 17% right there in Cross River, Calabar today.
And from Cross River to Enugu North today, Enugu weather feels like 24 degrees Celsius across board, and later in the morning rises by 6 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius to become cloudy, and to remain mostly cloudy in the afternoon at 33 degrees Celsius, and in the evening it drops to 26 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy as well, and overnight it drops much further by 2 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy with relative humidity at 8% today in Enugu North.
All right, a quick talk to the largest state in Nigeria, and that is Suleja, Niger State in the north central this morning. And weather in Suleja currently feels like 29 degrees Celsius, cloudy at 2% and later in the morning. But of course, that is a sharp rise of 5 notches from what it is currently at 24 degrees Celsius right now. But in the afternoon, it will also rise by 6 notches to 35 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy at 1%. It will drop to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening, mostly cloudy at 1%, while overnight it will maintain being mostly cloudy, 25 degrees Celsius at 4% right there in Suleja, Niger State today.
And from Suleja now to Kano Municipal today, the weather feels like 17 degrees Celsius across board, and later in the morning it rises to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, and afternoon it rises much further to 35 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy, and it remains partly cloudy, dropping by a significant 10 degrees Celsius down from 35 to 25 in the evening. And overnight it drops much further by 5 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy in Kano Municipal, Kano State today.
Well, I think that's all we can take on weather report this morning. Do well to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, finally Twitter at Dominion Cars. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook, like those pages, drop your comments, and we'll definitely take them on this show. Now it's time to go on a short break. When we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Anoluapo Ido. President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to defeating terrorism and banditry in the country. The president made a pledge in Abuja while delivering open remarks at the National Executive Council Conference on Inclusive Growth and Sustainable National Development. He praised the governors of Borno, Katsina, and Kaduna State for their efforts in safeguarding lives and property, assuring Nigerians that his government remains determined to strengthen the nation's security architecture. President Tinubu also said his administration is working to stabilize the economy through improved revenue generation, stronger public financial management, and increased investments in infrastructure. Meanwhile, the 7 construction workers abducted from a Kwara State government road project have regained their freedom after weeks in captivity. The workers were kidnapped on December 15, 2025, while working along the Sabaja-Owa-Onire Road in Isin local government area. Confirming their release, the State Commissioner for Works and Transport, Abdul Kawi Olododo, said the workers were freed through coordinated efforts between the state government and security agencies, describing the development as a boost to public safety in the state. The Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, has affirmed the Senate's suspension of Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The appellate court ruled that the Senate has the constitutional power to discipline its members and held that Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's fundamental rights were not breached. Delivering judgment, Justice Ababelo Mohammed said the Senate acted within its standing rules when it suspended the Senate over a refusal to comply with a seat reallocation directive during plenary on February 20, 2025. The court also faulted her refusal to appear before the Senate Committee on Ethics, Petitions and Privileges, but set aside the contempt charge and 5 million naira fine imposed by the Federal High Court, citing failure to follow due process. Grassroots mobilization took center stage in Ibadan as the Renewed Hope Ambassadors Initiative inaugurated its local government area ambassadors in the Oyo State, with party leaders urging them to deepen community engagement and strengthen party structures across the state. Our correspondent, Damilola Daudu, has the report.
Ambassadors Initiative has inaugurated local government area ambassadors in Oyo State. In his welcome address, the chairman of the Central Coordinating Committee, Alhaji Fatai Binkunle, at the grassroots, he chaired the ambassadors to remain dedicated, disciplined, and visible in their respective local government areas. The formal inauguration of the local government area ambassadors was coordinated by the Southwest Zonal Coordinator of the Renewed Hope Ambassadors, Senator Dayo Adeyeye.
Let's go to the newly appointed Renewed Hope Ambassadors at the local government level. And I want to say congratulations to all of you. If you have been chosen, you have been counted worthy of holding this position. Please let us give ourselves a round of applause like I said earlier. And I pray that the Almighty Allah will give us all that we require to succeed in this assignment.
He urged the newly inaugurated ambassadors to mobilize, organize, and energize party members across wards and polling units while working in synergy with party leaders at all levels.
Mention your names. Do solemnly swear that as the Renewed Hope Ambassador for your local government, I will abide by the terms of my appointment and perform my duties with absolute loyalty.
Delivering the keynote address, the Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, and the Oyo State Ambassador of Renewed Hope Agenda, Senator Teslim Folarin.
You are to mobilize, to energize. Understand the terrain, I'm seeing the faces there.
Stressed the need for integrity, humility, and people-centered leadership, noting that the Renewed Hope Agenda is focused on service, performance, and measurable results. The event also featured goodwill messages from APC stakeholders, representatives of neighboring states, as well as the party's youth and women wings. Damilola Daudu reporting for Dominion News.
Moving on, the Oyo State Police Command has arrested a 38-year-old man, Sahid Egunjobi, over a violent attack on commercial motorcyclists in Ibadan. Police said the suspect and an accomplice, now at large, posed as passengers before attacking the rider in the Modino area of Idiaro, injuring him with a cutlass and escaping with a motorcycle. The suspect was apprehended by members of the public while the victim was taken to the hospital. Efforts are ongoing to arrest the fleeing accomplice and recover the motorcycle. Meanwhile, the Oyo State Police Command has also disrupted a suspected court meeting in Oyo Town, arresting 3 suspected court members. The suspects were apprehended near Bode Thomas Secondary School after police acted on intelligence reports of gathering linked to court activities. Police recovered the motorcycle and axe and other items, while the suspect reportedly confessed to membership in the IEA confraternity. The case has now been transferred to the State Anti-Cultism Court for further investigation. And moving on to business, the Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC) has said it now receives about 10,000 business registration requests daily following the deployment of artificial intelligence across its service platforms. The Registrar General of the Commission, Hussaini Magaji, disclosed this in Abuja during an event marking the CAC's 35th anniversary. He said the use of artificial intelligence has improved speed, accuracy, and efficiency in handling registrations and customer inquiries. Magaji noted that rising applications are driven by tax reforms, business formalization policies, and the growth of digital enterprises. And finally, in sport, Nigeria's Falconets will travel to Dakar today ahead of their second leg clash against Senegal in the 2026 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. Senegal will host a return leg on Saturday, with Nigeria holding a 1-0 advantage from the first leg, thanks to a second-half header by Kindness Ifeanyi. The Falconets need at least a draw to progress to the next round of the qualifiers. The aggregate winner will face either Guinea-Bissau or Malawi in the final qualifying round. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And that's Daybreak News. I am Anu Luakbo Idu. Thank you for watching.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram at Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
We will defeat this unacceptable terrorism and banditry. Sounds so much like a prayer, but you want to know the pastor is the president of this very country. That's the president, Tinubu, saying that yes, Nigeria will defeat terrorism and banditry because it's unacceptable in the land. More like a prayer, perhaps a reality. Well, time will tell. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that as as we have the day breaking much further. Of course, this is the newspaper headline segment on Daybreak Live, newspaper headlines and analysis, where we check into the stories that are breaking and making the rounds across the nation, Nigeria. Of course, so many of those stories I have with me this morning. The Punch newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, and every other news outlet that we can lay our fingers on this morning. Of course, that big caption is one story I would like to first harp on a bit before we get into what we have today. Of course, yeah, it's on the Nation newspaper, boldly inscribed on the front page of the Nation newspaper, that the president said, "We will defeat unacceptable terrorism and banditry in the country, Nigeria." Do you believe that? Perhaps. If you do, please put a comment. We'd like to take the comments, right, on the Facebook platform or YouTube, whichever platform you're using this morning. Now, after that conversation, on the top corner of the Nation newspaper this morning as well, U.S. intervention in Nigeria insecurity is a blessing. And you want to know who said that as well? That's the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, as you can see this morning. New pay for varsity teachers takes off in line with new deal. That's also on the top corner of the Nation newspaper as well. Now talking a bit of business and foreign. Cardoso, foreign reserves now that's about $49 billion. Appeal court affirms Senate's power to suspend Natasha. Also a story to check out on the Nation newspaper. For one of time, I'll switch to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper has the story fresh killings, unfortunately. Abductions, heightened security fears amid drone attacks. That's also a story of interest this morning on the Guardian newspaper, if you like. Of course, still talking Guardian, there's GDP figures no longer enough to measure progress, says Shettima, that's the vice president, coming out to say that as well. Senate to harmonize the electoral acts today amid protests over real-time transmission. Yesterday, there was chaos. The National Assembly, gatherings of the Occupy National Assembly about the electoral acts. That is also a thing to talk about, something of importance to every Nigerian as we look into 2027 come the election. Now, residents protest as terrorists abduct 7 in Kaduna. Resident protesters, terrorists abduct 7 in Kaduna. Also, something to check out on the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria's internet speed slips, ranks 85th globally. That is also something some maybe online fellows, virtual fellows would like to talk about this morning. Natasha loses suspension appeal as courts cautious 5 million naira contempt fine. Another thing to check out this morning. Now, this day newspaper has interest in the Electoral Act, and that's about the protest as well. But the way he puts it forward this morning, the bold caption on this day newspaper is Electoral Act, coalition of CSOs warns 2027 elections may be compromised. That's the fear of many persons. Some in some quarters have said if you do not go ahead to make election results transmissible from polling units, from centers, it will become a disaster. Election malpractice will be the order of the day. But there's been a lot of questions about that, and we'll check into some of these concerns as well. Tinubu, terrorism giving Nigerians sleepless nights, will overcome them all. And someone says, amen. And now that's enough. We have to check into the analysis segment of this show. But I'm not doing this till I have Emmanuel Oladele Abiola joining us this morning. Good morning. It's good to have you in the studio today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So of interest to many Nigerians is a statement that looks like a prayer from the president that, yes, we are doing enough. Now, let's bring it all together with something that has been, also in the news, especially when the First Lady represented Nigeria at a United States prayer conference. And then Donald Trump, the president of the United States, made a comment, passed a very good comment of notes to the First Lady that she's a respectable person. And that, some are saying that's a good way to, some are saying it's not actually a compliment. Others are saying, well, it's a compliment. But whichever case, it's still the president saying he recognizes the First Lady of the Nigerian government, of the Nigerian state, if so to say. Now, let's get it together now. There's been cases about genocide that's been on the lips of the U.S. government every now and then. Just a few days ago, one of the envoys that represent the African community, and that's Dagvin Anderson, was also in Nigeria to meet with the president. There's been a lot of bilateral relations, engagement and arrangements, especially in the recent hour that we are now, and that's about a lot of things. But yes, let's speak to the issue that the president said. There's going to be a calm after the storm. Some people have lost trust. I want to know where Emmanuel stands.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. I see this as a normal thing a politician would say. It's not a new thing. It's not a genuine talk. Election year is coming. It's fast approaching. That's 2027, and definitely he has to gather some momentum, to gain some traction, to garner some followers and all, right? So he has to say things that will appeal to some sector of the audience, also the populace. So I see what he's saying. I see it as a normal talk, as an empty talk. Look at he made the statement in an event that was a renewed hope, whatever. He made the statement in that event. That event was essentially for his political ambition. So him talking, saying that on that platform says a lot. So I see it as an empty talk. They've been making those promises since he entered administration. Still we are here, and it's getting worse.
You've made mention of something very strong. That it's an empty talk from the president. But I would like to know why you think that is an empty talk, because it's something. If I say something and I do it, you might, as first when I said it, say that's an empty talk until I start working, right? So what are the metrics that you have put on the table of consideration to say that should be a political statement?
Yeah, because he has spent, let's say, this year makes it the third year of him being the president of the country. So several times he has made statements like this. Several times when, imagine, it took US, it took years to call our attention to this, for him to start making this statement. He has made all those statements years ago. Now we've not seen any result. They've deployed forces, they've done this, they've done that. These are the normal things that should be happening. So this should not be a new thing. So that's why I see it as an empty talk. He has made those statements times ago, and we've not seen any difference. It keeps getting worse.
Okay, so I get the premise now. The premise is he's been in power for such a long time, and you've not seen appreciable growth in terms of security. Yes, I mean, that's something to debate, but for want of time, we might need to switch focus to another issue that is of interest. There were protests in Abuja yesterday, especially about the Occupy National Assembly protests. We understand how this came about. The Senate saying, you know what, let's not give this a push. Let's just say that they don't have to transmit results from the polling unit, from the polling centers, due to some things, and then they gave a lot of what others have said. In fact, Peter Obi, former presidential candidate, also came out yesterday and joined the protest to say, you know what, we are standing by what Nigerians are crying for. This would result into election malpractice. This will result into vote buying, vote rigging, and all of that, and we don't want that to continue in the country. But I would like to get your comprehensive thought on this. What do you make of all of this issue?
Yeah, the Senate Media Committee made a statement very early this morning, yesterday, saying that they will sit today, they will resolve issues, and then Nigerians have a voice. Yes, but I believe we don't need to tell you we have a voice for you to know that we have a voice. All right. Now, coming back to the issue of the issue of the electoral act. Yes. What forms the basis of contention now is a clause in the old electoral act, and that clause is so fundamental to push us from being the old Nigerian, having the old electoral system, to the progressive one. You see nations of the country. You see. Let's take US as our epitome of example. US has an electoral update that you see the result almost as it is happening. And if that is not happening, therefore there is a fundamental issue going on, and which is wrong in our electoral system. So we agitating for that is a fundamental issue that we're emphasizing on. We need to see election results transmitted electorally and on time, in real time. Now, I was so saddened by the Senate removing that clause. Like, what are you doing? If you say you're making an electoral to reform, to bring a reform, a total reform, why remove that? In fact, that forms the basis. Pardon me to say, there was a Supreme Court decision that says that electronic reports do not form the basis of a valid results. So you cannot say I've won my election because the website says you've won. No, you have to see the paper. You have to go and check the paper, what the returning officer has written for you to confirm your result. As of this generation, this should not be. As of today, this should not be. We should be able to see election results, and we should be able to place faith on it that yes, this is it. Because if you are not seeing it in real time, something is going on. If you cannot see our result in real time as of today, where the electronic age is going very fast, if you cannot see our result on time, something is very wrong. So yeah, we have a voice and it has to be obeyed.
Okay, so let me exfoliate that a little bit. There were calls yesterday, even on national television, for the removal of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, because some have said he's the brain behind all of these negations. So I would like to also help us unpack that. What do you make of that? Some are calling that if he doesn't get to do this, then this shows he has failed and he should be rooted out of the system.
Yeah, totally. If this electoral act does not go through, and it does not go through with what we want, because what we want is we want real-time results. We want to see our results electronically. We want reforms in the system. We don't want rigging anymore. We want it to be one person, one vote. If these things are not happening, they failed us. In fact, that's the essence. They failed us. But coming to the issue of impeachment, how many times have you seen a sitting president, sitting governor, sitting anything, sitting candidate been impeached in Nigeria as of the last decade? Very few. In fact, very, very few. So, although yes, it's our right to demand for impeachment, but I don't see it as a viable result. I don't see that as a viable option. However, if the electoral act falls through, they failed us. It needs to go through. It is, in fact, it is a big issue for us as a nation.
You know, so let's stretch away also, maybe not totally away from the Senate chambers, and let's talk Akpoti Uduaghan. There's been that claim, so you know, there's this back and forth. We've had this countless number of times, and then there's been the issue, the Senate president against Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan, and it seems now there's a court order that says that appeal court affirms Senate's power to suspend Natasha. When we thought this was already done with, when we thought we had gotten to the end of the tunnel and then we should see light, now we are seeing another court order. But what do you think is going to likely happen to Natasha and maybe the Senate?
Right. So what happened with the Court of Appeal decision was not a new thing. It was just an affirmation. So there's no new order, there's no new penalty, there's no new punishment for her. What the Court of Appeal decision said was that what they did last year was right. So that doesn't mean this year she will have to sit out again. Do you get? So what has happened is that they just said what they did was right. So there's no new issue at this point.
But they ruled out the 5 million naira fine that she also proposed against the federal, the Senate House as well.
Yeah, that's proper. That's proper.
You think it's according to law?
Yeah, it is.
But so some would argue that there's a bit of politics in that as well.
Of course, I understand that point of view because over time our judiciary has not shown that honesty that we demand from them. But once in a while, they come up with this level of brilliance that you just have to give them their flowers. And in this sort of situation, yeah, they've done quite well by upholding the suspension, but then denying the fine. Because it should be just that's what justice should be. Fine was issued against her. So that means she won't be paying the fine, she won't be doing whatever, but the punishment she went through last year was affirmed. And that's how justice should be. Justice should be seen, obvious, that each of us, it's a win-win situation in that scenario. So yeah, a bit of politics must have been there, of course, but I won't say policy was a big sway on this decision of the court. The Court of Appeal is an holy grail to our judiciary.
Okay, so very quickly, I'll put it to you. What do you think is going to become the end of Akpoti Uduaghan and the Senate? What do you think is going to be at the end of the day? Are we still expecting something better for her, or better for the Senate, or better for Godswill Akpabio? Because if you actually consider the claims she made against Akpabio and what Akpabio said and all of that she did not, attend the Ethics and Privileges Committee meeting that she was invited to, and a lot of that. Some said that the president at some point waded into the situation, but it still felt like there was still, because one time she was going to travel and her passport was denied, and she was making claims that this was the handiwork of, the Senate president, saying that she has the right to travel, she has the right to her passport, and it was returned to her, and all of those claims. But let's see, looking ahead now, projections. What do you think is going to become the end of all of this saga?
I see the light at the end of the tunnel for both of them.
How do you mean?
because if it's politics, right? So they know what they are doing. They know the game. They know when to shout. They know when to stop. So I see the light at the end of the tunnel for the two of them, because it's just a 4-year term, and the 4-year term is almost ending. Except if they both get re-elected again for the next term or for the next regime, then we might see something else. But at the moment, all the legal battles, all the brouhaha has ended for them at this point. If they are smart.
Okay. Let's talk about the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. She made a comment that I think is of interest. She said, United States intervention in Nigeria, especially in the insecurity in Nigeria, is a blessing. You know, some have said, yes, they called you to say, oh, there's something you should note, and you are noting it. What happened to the fact that you could have called them first when you discovered there was no strength enough, there was no capacity to really cool the tension in the country? So some are maybe alluding to the fact that this administration does not have what it takes to quell tension or to quell insurgency in the country. But I want to know where Emmanuel stands.
Yeah, definitely. This administration does not have it. In fact, most administrations do not have it. We've seen the results. There was the Buhari regime, there was the Jonathan regime. These issues have been reoccurring from years ago. So what we've seen is just progression in deterioration in what is happening. So we see kidnapping rising, terrorism rising, banditry rising. That's what we are saying. And at this stage, I don't see, this regime does not have their capacity. That's so certain. Now, the question is, why didn't they ask for help? That's something about diplomacy. Diplomacy, if you ask for help in diplomacy, you are seen as a weak vessel. You are seen as a weak one, and they will take it over you. Imagine the US. I promise you, US is like the devil. He will give you how do Yoruba say? He will give you a cap, but he will take the whole head. Look at, I read this morning that US is proposing a drone refueling station in Nigeria now, after they've conducted the bombing campaigns and all. You see that US is the devil. He will, pardon me to put devil in quotes, he will give you something, but we demand a lot. So I understand their hesitation in not asking for help. That's diplomacy, and it's wise. I will put it in, it's wise. However, what we need to do is re-strategize internally, because US has given us help now. Now they're asking for something. So,
what do you think the US is asking for? No,
they've started. They asked for a drone refueling system in Nigeria. And the funny thing is that, do you know that most of the diplomatic relations that happen, that we see on TV, we probably see around 30% of it. 70% of it are underneath work. And those are what really matters. So you see, tomorrow, you might start seeing some US companies coming into Nigeria, conducting some activities, maybe oil exploration, mining, and all those things. Those were part of the agreement, but you will not hear them on TV. So most of diplomatic relationships we will see on TV that are evident at 30%. So when you see US bomb Nigeria, then he's asking for a drone refueling system. In fact, I'm scared, because if US is asking for a drone refueling system and we can see it, then there's a lot that we can't see. Another thing is that now US is broadening its intelligence system in Nigeria. So that means US is having a strong goal. That was how it started in Somalia. That was what it started in Libya and some other African countries, even in the Middle East now. So yes, we did right. I would say in that way, we did right. But we should not see ourselves as the child, as a favorite child to the US. Is a tactic. Is a tactic, and we should not fall for it.
Oh, okay. So you think at the end of every of this bilateral agreement, there has to be an agreement.
Oh.
There are favors, because nobody is a Father Christmas in that sense.
Definitely.
Even the US wants something, right? But let's advance it just a bit now. Let's talk world powers. Some have said allegiance to the US is the best. Others have said we've had agreements with China, for example, and we know if you check the mining industry in Nigeria, you find Chinese there.
Yep.
And so there's been that arrangement that might not be visible to everybody, but there's some sort of agreement between all of that. So some have also said, Russia, how about Russia? Talking about world powers, where should Nigeria really belong to ensure that it moves ahead? Or which of these which of these nations can give leverage to the Nigerian state for it to become an African giant as it used to?
Yeah.
What do you? I want to know your thoughts on this. Which of them would you have likened to be the right one for Nigeria to relate with more than the other?
All right. Thank you so much. So at this moment, Nigeria is playing the cat and rat chase. Right? Nigeria is trying to be the golden boy. We are dancing to China, we are dancing to Russia, we are dancing to the US, we are dancing to all those world powers. At this moment, we've not taken a stance yet. So you see Nigeria making agreements with China today, going to the US, and then sometimes with Russia and all. However, first things first, I want you to know is that bilateral relationships, like I said, there's always a devil in the agreement. There's always a devil who wants something better and more. Now, economically, we want to go with China. China is Father Christmas as of today. Father is Santa Claus. He's giving us everything we need. If you ask for $2 trillion loans, China is ready to give you. However, there's some things that
ready to give you for free or give you at a cost.
Thank you so much. Now you realize that road construction in Nigeria now are rarely done by Nigerian companies. Now, most of construction projects, railways, roads, airports, and some other activities, they are done by Chinese companies now, or Lebanese companies, or some other companies. Why? This agreement, that was why I said that agreements made on TV, that you see on TV, are not what is actually going on. So you start seeing Chinese companies taking on road construction projects, and you ask, there are Nigerian companies doing this. That was because of the agreement. Now, if you consider US has a military might. Yes, US can do and can say and do. However, what will they wax? That should be the question. So as of today, I would not say, I would advise Nigerians, our advisors, we should keep dancing. We are the golden boy at the moment. They want us. So we should still keep playing that game. However, at the end, we also actually have to settle because there's alliance in the world system. You actually have to take a stance that see, this is who I stand with, this is who I stand with. So as of today, my best option will definitely be the US. Of course, I know there's a question about it, but to definitely be US because I don't trust China. Oh, I don't trust Russia too.
Oh well, that's your opinion, but maybe this administration would maybe make a choice someday somehow.
No, they're already making a choice.
Well, they're still dilly-dallying. Yeah. They're not exactly here and there. But let's take it further. Let's do politics briefly. So you understand the story, the background story, the underlying stories of Fubara and Wike. And again, just this morning, Tinubu holds fresh peace talks with Fubara and Wike. Lawmakers may back down on impeachment process. You mentioned something about impeachment the other time, that we've not seen impeachment in recent times. Of course, I think the last few ones we've had, I think one was in maybe 2013. There were many in 2006. I think one in 2005, including Oyo State at the time, the governor. But there's been that claim that, oh yes, we are about to have this again with Fubara and the House of Assembly in Rivers State at the time, saying yes, we want to impeach this governor. The governor moved from the party he was to the APC, to the center, like they say. And then there seems to be let there be an umbrella over this guy. If he's in this party, we cannot allow someone in this party to be impeached. It's an affront to the party, it's an affront to the ruling government of Tinubu. So there's been a lot of that, conversations. But, what do you think is going to happen? Because some have also alleged that, why is it taking forever for Tinubu to wade into this issue and settle it? Some have even said it's beyond Tinubu. Or maybe Tinubu likes the way it's going for him, especially distracting the Nigerian people, because sometimes if you have those kind of arrangements, it distract everybody from the real issue that we are facing. But what do you make of this very quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. I would say Tinubu, yes, it's not beyond Tinubu. However, Tinubu is being cautious. Tinubu is being careful of the effect of what might go after, right? Tinubu is being careful of his own ambitions too. Now, let's talk about impeachment. Like I said, impeachment is difficult now. And Fubara was very smart. He knew when to move from PDP to APC. That time when it was, I think, was it suspended, that 6-month period when he was suspended, that would have been the best time for the House of Assembly of Rivers State to have impeached him. But that didn't happen.
But they were suspended too.
They were suspended, right. That was why I said that would have been the best time, but it could not have happened. So he knew when to take his leave and move quickly to APC. So yes, the old brawl between Fubara, Wike, is not beyond Tinubu. However, Tinubu is being cautious because it's a political issue. It's not a governmental issue. Because Tinubu is a president, so he's not seen. Tinubu is seen as our president. He should not take our time. He should not take the time he should be using as a president to serve the APC candidacy or the APC party. There are two different dichotomies. So definitely, Tinubu is being careful not to destroy or tarnish his own candidacy and still play safe in his own party. So yeah, I don't see the issue ending very soon. Although we are seeing some changes, but not very soon.
Emmanuel Adele Abiola, thank you very much for joining us on this. You've made very valid points on this very segment of newspaper headlines today.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we'll now switch focus to the big story. I want to talk about the refinery saga. There's so much in that is good for you to know. And of course, that will be shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Beautiful morning to you. Good morning once again and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live. Nigeria is Africa's largest crude oil producer, yet remains heavily dependent on imported refined petroleum products. At the center of this contradiction are government-owned refineries that have consumed billions of dollars but delivered little value. Is this a case of waste, poor strategy, or deliberate political cover? This morning we examine the NNPC refinery saga. Waste, strategy, or political cover? That's a very big question. Joining us is Amuda Musigbodi, a researcher and a public affairs analyst, to help us unpack the history, politics, and consequences of Nigeria's refinery crisis. Samson Balogo is my name, and thank you for joining us. Nigeria's refinery journey began with optimism. The Port Harcourt refinery was commissioned in 1965, followed by Warri in 1978 and Kaduna in 1980. Port Harcourt was in 1989, giving the country enough installed capacity to meet domestic fuel demand, about 445,000 per day. However, decades of poor maintenance, political interference, subsidy distortions, and weak institutional management gradually crippled these assets, turnaround maintenance became routine, costly, and ineffective, turning refineries into financial liabilities. Under President Olusegun Obasanjo, government admitted failure and moved to privatize the refineries in 2007. That decision was reversed by President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, returning them to state control without clear reform, leaving Nigeria stuck between privatization and public ownership. Recent statements credited to Bayo Julari have revived concerns over the future of state refineries and what they mean for competition in a post-subsidy era now dominated by private players like Aliko Dangote and his refinery. More fundamentally, Nigeria appears to have lost control of its oil narrative, reacting to market forces rather than shaping them. For Nigerians, this translates into high fuel prices, inflation, economic pressure, and declining trust in public institutions. A lot to unpack on this show this morning. As we said, this is the big story. And I have with me in the studio, Hamuda Musiboli. Good to have you here once again.
Thank you so much for having me, Samson.
I want to unpack the bottlenecks. Let's talk about the real issues. What exactly is wrong with Nigerian refineries? And why are we here? How did we get here? Since all these refineries were commissioned to stream, what exactly has been the problem?
Oh, well, thank you again. First, if we take, the historical path from, the Port Harcourt refinery, in 63, I think, and then, other refineries, the other 4 refineries that followed. Most people say we have 4 refineries. Actually, we have 5. The only thing is that the 5th one is only does conversion from crude, to diesel, and just 1,000 barrels per day for local production. But if you look at it really, one thing that is clear is that these refineries were set up with socialist intentions. Socialist intentions in the sense that they were set up to help relieve the burden. So the subsidy era was integral to the establishment of these refineries. Now, when these refineries were set up, by the time, by the 80s, okay, when, of course, we had the last refinery, what we saw was that the infrastructure of these refineries, okay, began to wear off. Don't forget the first was in the 60s, the second was in the 70s. But by the 90s, because of long years of abandonment of these infrastructures, it is normal that when you have infrastructures like these and they are not serviced, they are not properly taken care of, monies are allocated for those infrastructure, but those monies are not utilized properly, you would have a situation where they would experience wear and tear. Now, having experienced wear and tear, for instance, if you get this table, and you're supposed to clean it, so you're going to pay someone, it's going to be part of your overhead cost, someone who will be taking care of the table. But you chose not to take care of the table. Maybe you even allocate money for taking care of the table. But then someone somewhere, decides to circumvent that money or, siphon the money, and no one takes care of the table. By the time the state of the table begins to worsen, you will need to spend more. Now, it becomes worse where and when, at that point where you now need to spend on it, some persons have seen it as a conduit pipe or a cash cow for them. And so, all the monies allocated for it are not utilized. So what we have seen is, in the case of the NNPC, and of course revamping those refineries, has been a case of willful intentionality not to ensure that these refineries are back to life.
Okay, let me quickly ask you this. Were these refineries built to work optimally, or there were strategic structural defaults from the beginning?
No, there were no strategic structural defaults from the beginning. These refineries were working perfectly well up to the 90s. They were producing optimally. The problem we started with, the wave of the Niger Delta militancy, or not started, worsened with the wave of the Niger Delta militancy, which saw to the fact that some of those refineries, particularly the two Port Harcourt refineries and the Warri refineries, were almost subject of attacks. Okay, and so people were, a lot of times people now felt, oh, let's not go there, oh, for fear of life. But then the truth is, those refineries are not working because some persons who have seen it as a cash cow
are sabotaging.
Yes, are intentionally, willfully sabotaging the efforts to revamp those refineries. Because, hey, let's look at it this way. In infrastructural restructuring or infrastructural reconstruction, before a contractor takes a job, he would have done what we call a feasibility studies.
Absolutely.
Now, the feasibility studies will tell him, okay, if this thing is going to be repaired, it's going to work. Right? Now, the engineer would have done all of that, the contractor would have done all of that. Have we ever asked ourselves, where is the report of the engineer? The post-repairs report. So why is it the case that every time we say, oh, this, for instance, during the Buhari years, we saw how Mele Kyari was telling us, oh, there was turnaround maintenance and now they are back to life, and only for them to go, back to the afterlife after just, few weeks. So where is the report of the engineers telling us, because the engineers need to be held accountable. If I get a technician to fix something for me, and then that thing is still giving me the same issues, what do? I should return. In fact, most times, when you give contractors to engineers like that, okay, engineers like this, there would always be post-repairs maintenance, where they will come around maybe for a period of a year or two to keep giving service or servicing of those infrastructures. So when they come and say, oh, these refineries are not working, I've said this several times, somewhere, and I've said that if you also look at the body language of Nigerian leaders, go and look from the 60s, particularly from the 80s upward. This is what Nigerian leaders do. They want to go this path. They know that if they say they want to go this path, you are all going to shout. So what do? They will follow this path and
make several
it problematic. Make you suffer. And in the midst of the groaning and murmuring, you now say, see, maybe we should go this path, which is what they had always wanted. Look at what they did with subsidy. They started, did you notice that as soon as the subsidy regime was gone, scarcities suddenly disappeared? The scarcities were not there because the subsidies were there.
Were they artificial?
They were artificial scarcities.
Genuinely created by the government.
It was, see, I have always said this. I believe that there are not necessarily government, but some persons in government who are feeding fat off these schemes.
So are you saying the cabal in the oil system?
Definitely, there are cabals who know that as soon as we fix this, what is happening with our power, our power sector? If your power sector is working, there will be no need for you. All the generator importers are gone. The only reason why the solar business is thriving now is because the power sector has failed. So there are those in that sector who know that, oh, the collateral damage will be that this sector must not work. And that's the same thing with the petroleum industry. So these persons know that was even before the coming of Dangote. And you would also see this. Now, to lend credence to this, you saw the big bats between these characters and Dangote when Dangote came on board.
And he stood his ground.
Okay? And Dangote stood his ground, knowing how well to play his propaganda. Grandstanding also as the messiah of the people. But the point is this. The whole drive, the whole work towards making sure our refineries do not work is simply to ensure that they are sold. Now, when those refineries are sold, who will buy it? Am I the one?
Still the same set of people.
So it's still going to be the same set of people, and then they'll be feeding fat. Oh, why has it been difficult? Let's just use the one we can relate with. Why has it been difficult for Dangote, for instance, to come up and tell us this is the unit cost per liter of
He once made an attempt to buy some of the Nigerian refineries.
No, I mean, has he come out to tell us this is the unit cost of, this is what it costs to produce a liter of petrol, so that we know his profits? And so he can play the price war with these characters by suddenly reducing 100 naira, you know, in the cost of PMS, and then suddenly jacking it up. After the people have thought to themselves that, oh, this man is a blah, 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 blah. You see, what we are seeing now play out is nothing but a capitalist drive. The attempt to ensure that the people have no respite whatsoever in every sense of the word, because it is not rocket science. And you see these characters, the likes of, you know, the like of Obasanjo and even Ojulari and others, who have been saying, no, we need to sell these refineries. Okay, government has no business in business.
I was about to ask you, was the reversal of the privatization under Umar Musa Yar'Adua administration a missed opportunity, or was a necessity to protect national interest?
How do you say you are privatizing and then you are selling to your cronies? What kind of the people have no stake? We are not the only oil producing country in the world. And I give an example. You see, before you begin to, because the world all over has come to understand that capitalism is a danger. It's a dangerous trend. And so people are already looking for a kind of a hybrid system. PPP. Public-private partnership. Where the government will still have a stake in all of this, because the government will always look out for the interests of the people. The interest of Dangote is not the interest of the people.
But some say it's the Messiah.
Which Messiah?
He has come to turn around.
And okay, so why did this Messiah, what kind of Messiah is it? He has to increase it back to, you know, by 100 naira again. The first thing for a capitalist is ensuring that his marginal utility equals to his price. That's when he's going to break even. So the first thing on his mind is maximization of profits. Dangote does not owe my father anything. He does not owe anybody's father anything. So he has no business, no duty to anyone, no duty of care to anyone to ensure that he provides. So he is providing for, Dangote is providing PMS because he's making profits.
Okay, is the indecision between privatization and state control, has it made the issue of these refineries, has it made it worse?
Yeah, it has kind of made it worse, particularly because government itself is confused. You know, I mentioned PPP earlier. Now, those refineries could work if the private sector has a stake in it. I'm a socialist, but I'm not a blind socialist. Okay, I would not say, oh, government, oh, should, you know, government alone. We have not gotten to that point in our life, okay, where we say we leave it to government, particularly with these leeches, you know, that are found in government. I give the example of, you know, Saudi Arabia's Aramco. And hey, let me say this as well. Many have also been deceived into believing that the problem is with us as Nigerians or our Nigerianness. There's nothing wrong with our Nigerianness. What is wrong is the lack of responsibility of those who are in government, our policy makers. These characters are all out for themselves. So instead of doing the needful, they will always, what will drive them, or what has been driving them, has been their self-interest. And when your self-interest drives you, you can be sure that you will not perform optimally and efficiently too. So these refineries have refused to work because these persons have not placed the interests of Nigeria and Nigerians above self-interest.
Okay, as it is now, let's talk about the NNPC. The way it is currently structured, can the NNPC successfully run commercial refineries? Or these are just unrealistic, you know?
Of course, isn't that the whole idea behind the whole NNPCL? It is. So you see, when you run, I always say this, the business of government is to do the business of government. And the business of government is doing business. So when people come and say, oh, government has no business in business, it's a lie. It's a lie. And Nigerians are very funny. We do double speak a lot. So Nigerians are saying government needs to intervene in the housing sector because of the rising cost of housing and accommodation. Yet you are saying government has no business in business. Nigerians are saying government needs to intervene in the rising cost of transportation. Yet you are saying government should have no business in business. Nigerians are saying the cost at which they get, procure their data is high. Yet you are saying government has no business in business.
So the government has a say in any...
government has a business in business.
Okay.
Because if government will duly protect the interests of its people, then it must have a business in business.
Now, very quickly, I want us to talk about this particular statement credited to Bayo Ojulari. I said Nigeria will just be wasting money if we continue to maintain these refineries. In fact, his claim makes us understand the fact that these refineries have gone moribund. Now, as it stands, where does that statement put the Nigerian refineries, this administration, and definitely NNPCL as a body?
I think the first thing is that Bayo Ojulari...
Are we seeing the first time where someone has come to tell Nigerians the truth to their faces?
I believe that, number one, Bayo Ojulari's statement is an admittance of failure. And it simply means that he ought, if he actually has any modicum of integrity, he ought to have resigned.
Why so?
Yeah, because if you are saying that Nigeria cannot manage the refineries, okay, so what are you doing as the CEO? So, because obviously if we sell to the private sector, if we sell these refineries to the private sector...
It will work.
Well, it
will not be turned to a museum anyway.
Well, at least a Bayo Ojulari's position will no longer be needed. Or is he going to be the chairman of their board? Will he? So, it's an admittance of guilt. It's an admittance of failure. And what the like of Bayo Ojulari, and others are doing is essentially to create a soft landing for their, imperialist and capitalist friends, so that it becomes a ground for them to sell over our infrastructure. Let's look at it this way. Many of us don't understand the danger we are living in. While we were growing up in Lagos, there used to be public corporation water corporation. So every house does not need to drill a borehole. Right? And that was one of the things that saved us. Many of us are complaining now that, we don't even know whether we're in the dry season or in the rainy season. You see rain when you're already affecting the ozone layer with your activities. So now you go on the street and you see 30 houses, and each of the 30 houses drill the borehole, and you think that the earth surface is not affected. I was on the island last week in Lagos, and I saw a certain street, about 40 houses, 3-story building. That was a list, 3-story building, and each of these houses had a borehole. God forbid, should there be an earthquake, or a tremor, you can imagine what would happen, because the earth's surface is weak. So we killed all of that. We killed, NEPA is not functioning. Now that you have sold to PHCN, or the different
discos,
has there been improvements? Has there been improvement?
Government still has a stake in all of this when it comes to generation.
Definitely, government has a stake in generation. But in distribution, has there been any improvement? When we said, Nitel is a problem.
You only distribute what is generated.
But then this private sector also has a stake. You see, my point is this. Now, look at the telecom sector. At least it's totally deregulated, save for government oversight function. Yet Nigerians are groaning. So you buy data now. Some of us spend as much as maybe 20 to 30,000 naira on data monthly. Now, how many people can afford that? Okay, so you see people using their data in piecemeal. Nigerians will turn off data while, and though I always laugh, like, when you turn on the data, all that you're supposed to have done while you have turned it off.
It will definitely...
But then they feel that these are survival mechanisms. My point is this: you cannot leave everything to the private sector. if government is not there playing an oversight role, the people will be ripped off.
Okay, just like what you said now, if Nigeria eventually privatizes the refineries, is Nigeria intentionally or unintentionally creating an industry dominated by a few powerful people?
Definitely. And don't forget that...
and how disastrous is that?
This is a sector that affects every life. 99.9% of our cars run on fuel. So it means that you have created a wealthy platform for these individuals. And this is why some of us have said, no, it's not privatization. Why are we always shouting as if privatization is the only way? There are other measures we can explore, other means we can explore. Why have these characters been shouting privatization? Why have they not been talking about PPP? Because if you talk about privatization, so it means all that the government has spent so far on this infrastructure will go to waste. The only way they will recoup is when they sell. So they will not be participating in the further profit down the line.
Okay, that brings us to this question. Has Nigeria lost control of its oil narrative, especially when it comes to pricing, supply, and public communication?
Well, to an extent, Nigeria seems to have, because if you look at it this way, our production has not been the same. It has not been up to par. In fact, meeting OPEC quota has been a problem. Okay, although under this administration there's been some stability, but then we do not have control over pricing. The Nigerian government does not have any control over pricing. With the removal of the subsidy regime, the essence of the subsidy regime was to create a cap that no one should sell above this cap so that it is affordable. Because we know that as soon as you exceed that cap, it's going to redound on everything now. The woman who is selling okra in a local market in Oyo State will need that fuel because she's going to transport her goods
from the village
somewhere
down to...
And the driver who bought the fuel will transfer it. So she's going to bear the incidence. And the person who will bear the final incidence, the burden, will be the final consumer. Now, that final consumer may also be someone who has a school, who runs a school. So she will transfer it on the school fees that the children will pay. Okay, the one who is paying high school fees has a house he built, and then will transfer it on those who take the apartment from him or her. So the circle begins to expand. That is why you cannot, anyone who follows the subsidy regime does not understand the dynamics, the chain effect. Some of us have always said this, and we would always maintain it, that removal of subsidy was nothing but a scam. Removal of subsidy was nothing but, a wrong policy. Why?
It was considered necessary at the time.
It was not necessary. What was the problem with the subsidy regime? You said people were taking our PMS to predatory neighbors. Something, is it your duty to man the borders? Is it my duty to man the borders?
That's the role of the government.
So why are you passing the burden of your failure on the ordinary masses? Because it is a failure of government to man the borders that has made it possible for smugglers to smuggle to other countries. Okay? So instead of doing the needful, we did not do the needful. Now, we do not have power over pricing. And when you do not have power over pricing, so imagine how many people, how many of the end users did Dangote consult with before he increased the price? So you are collecting a salary of, say, 70,000. Your employer did not anticipate there would be any increments. And then you go to work, and after getting your salary, there's an announcement by a certain Mr. Aliko Dangote that the price has been increased. So if you were spending 1,500 or say 2,000 on transportation earlier, if you do not have a car, then you are now spending about, because the driver who owns that public transport will also pass the burden. Right. Okay, now you have to spend 2,500. Okay, that is out of, so initially your transport fare for a month was 40,000. Now with 2,500, that is 12,500 in a week, in a week, and that makes it 50,000 in a month. So you are left with 20,000. Now that 20,000 that you are left with, the burden of that increase in transportation
also goes to
food items. So if you were able to buy, say, a Congo of Gary before, a Congo of rice, all of these things also become affected. Those who are going to bear the burden are those who provide services.
Okay, just before we go, with the current structure in Nigeria, can Nigerians realistically expect price stability as things go on?
Now, price stability is a function. Price stability will only come where there is stability in, one, the international price of the product. There is even no stability in the international price of the product itself. So how do we expect price stability? You saw that at the point Dangote dropped 40 naira, at the point just because he wanted to outplay the importers. So price stability will not exist where there is price war, and we are still seeing price war at the moment. The only way that you can have price stability is if our refineries are working. And unfortunately, you would also notice the pattern. Those refineries did not start working until the subsidy regime was fully gone. So this whole attempt is to see how government will hands off the refineries, remove its financial obligations to those refineries, and then sell to the private sector and say, okay, that is off our neck. That is what government, we have been having this limitative government over time, limitative, democracy over time, where government's responsibilities are reduced. Okay. So what that also means is that workers in that sector will no longer be the business of government. And then you keep having serious litigations and, actions, strike actions, because those who are in that sector will ask government that they must be catered for.
Right.
Just as we have in the power sector.
So lastly, before we go, finally, do you think Nigeria's refinery crisis is a technical issue or a further exposure of Nigeria's inability to maintain a structured position when it comes to maintenance?
Oh, well, I think it's both technical, and then there's also the human angle to it. Technical in the sense, let me start with the human angle. There is that lack of will. Where there is a will, there will be a way. But then we do not have that will. We do not have the will to, if we have a government today, if we have a president today who wants to see those refineries working, they will start working.
So it's about
Who
will.
would have thought that in Nigeria you can apply for your passport and get it within the week without having to cut corners?
So if there is a will in that sector, why not in other sectors?
Okay, so it's the same thing that cuts across boards.
It's something we'll discuss some other day. Why some sectors get more attention than the other. Thank you, Amuda Musigudu, for joining us on this show this morning. It has been a wonderful session with you. The Nigerian refinery saga is no longer just about broken plans. It is about governance, policy direction, and national credibility. Whether the path forward is full privatizations or strategic partnerships, or maybe deep reform, one thing is clear. The current approach is unsustainable. And many thanks to my guest this morning, Amuda Musibodi, a researcher and public affairs analyst, for joining us on this important conversation. Samson Balogun is my name, and this has been The Big Story on Daybreak Live. Stay with us as we continue to ask questions that shape Nigeria's future. Up next is Trend Watch. We'll be back. welcome back. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice, where inspiration meets entertainment. It is time to take trend watch on this show this morning, and Alulu Apoidogo is back in the studio.
Yeah, such a good time to talk about what's trending across the nation. Of course, yes, shocking. While it's so important not to be a share of bad news, sometimes you just have to take them, maybe just to as a way to put some kind of reference to it so there can be actions concerning that issue. Gunmen attack Catholic Church in Benue, abduct 9 worshippers. That's the unfortunate incident that just happened according to this particular media source. And there's been a conversation just the same time that happened. There was a deployment in another place, you know, so there's that call for, do we really have that capacity to quell tension in the northwest, the north central, and every other part that is troubled? Because this, at the same time, Nigerian Army deploys special forces to Plateau State over resurgent banditry. That's almost the same time as the same time. I'm saying same time every time because it's happening at almost, you could just trace that, okay, maybe 1 hour after this is happening. So there was a crisis in Benue. There was a deployment to Plateau State. Do we really have enough deployment? Can we have enough deployment to say if there's an issue in Benue, there's an issue at the same time concurrently in Borno? Can we have deployment across those places? Do we have that much of weaponry? Do you have that much of intelligence? Do you have that much of human resources to say, do we have soldiers enough to do all of that at this time? Because just today, it came out in the news that the president said we will end terrorism and banditry in the country. That's a promise. That's something like a prayer. Oh yes, we will do this. But how can we really do it? Because it's okay to say, I want to build a house. Tell me what resources you have put in place to say you are building a house with. Tell me if you have a land. Show me the CFO. Show me the financial. We want to do this because who would like to go to a war without counting the cost, right? So what have we counted the cost? Do we have enough resources to tackle and end banditry according to what the president has said? I think that's like the fairer question to ask.
Well, I think in Nigeria we are about, by standard, by what people are saying and by what the government is saying, we're about 245 to 250 million people, if not more. And as it stands, Nigeria has about 223,000 military personnel. It could be more, depending on where you're looking at it from, and that includes the Nigerian Army, Navy, Air Force, and some other support units. And by all standards, even the UN standard, that is way too low. Nigeria actually needs more. And you know, you could remember a few months ago, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made that particular statement and said, look, we are going to recruit massively into the Nigerian military and definitely into other places, outfits, to make sure that we block the insufficiency in those areas. But the problem is that it's not really about the military alone. How about the police, the paramilitary agencies? Do we have enough? Some people have spoken about state policing, which some will still argue with you that Nigeria is not right for state policing. But hey, if you want to look at it from the angle of are we ready, we will never be ready, and we'll continue to have challenges of this nature. Nigerian police force is reported at roughly about 370,000 to 372,000. That is way too low. And you talk about what standard in terms of ratio. There hasn't been a single global recommended army size because military needs vary widely in some countries. However, research suggests that on average, worldwide, there are about 6 active military personnel per 1,000 civilians. That is what the standard should look at. And when you compare the current size we have in Nigeria to what we, the kind of number we parade as citizens, I mean 250 million people, that is way too small. So it means that we have a long distance to cover, we have a long way to go. And shortly before I leave that particular one, we should know that the election is around the corner. Majority of these challenges we are seeing, they are politically generated, most of them. There are motives behind it. It's not just about insecurity in the country. Don't forget that this is not the first time that we are witnessing something of this nature, if not more, when it comes to election period. If the election is coming to discredit the current administration, you know, there are going to be crises. And statements have been credited to so many people. I could remember, I think that was yesterday, Malam Namsiri Rufai was making a statement about Godswill Akpabio and called him a particular name on national TV. There are some people that really should be cautioned. Late President Muhammadu Buhari also made a statement when he lost an election. I think that was in that should be 2011 or thereabouts. That should be 2011. Yes. And then after losing the election, was still with CPC then. He said, if the baboon and the hunter will be soaked in blood. That for me was a volatile statement, a statement that could set the nation on fire. But what happened then? Nobody said a thing about it. People make unnecessary statements sometimes. You might not even be the one who has actually generated insecurity in the country. But making such statements sets some people off. And then they begin to act not directly to your order, but because they feel like they are working to suit your own ambition. And that does not make us a country. That makes us cowards as individuals. We can easily, you see, what's the role of traditional rulers in all of this? You have your communities, people are doing things that really should not be done in a country, and nobody is saying anything. But when it comes to mining, when it comes to making money off the Nigerian people, you know exactly what to do. But when it comes to security, you are suddenly not in charge. I mean, governors will say, oh, we don't have access to the police, we don't have access to the military. But hey, when it comes to the election, we know how many police officers happens to be in the cover of each gubernatorial candidate. But you don't have access to them when Nigerians are being affected. But when it comes to you as an individual, you know what to do. I think it is a deliberate attempt to decimate this administration. It's a deliberate attempt to make Nigerians look like a shadow of itself, and it's a deliberate attempt to cripple Nigeria as a country. And the way forward is quite simple. What we have to do is that the administration should show a little bit of seriousness with body language, right? Whoever has been caught, there should be capital punishment for capital offenses. Nobody should rub anyone on the head just because, it's done by so-so person. Oh, I know this so-so person. Sometimes they say, oh, a particular criminal was granted bail just because he knows this person. Or just because. See, also the judicial arm of government also has to stand firm. Because in all of this, they are the divide between crime and justice. The moment you stand firm and justice is delivered and people trust the system, you will see that whistleblowing will become bigger than what we are currently seeing in the country.
Let's take a few comments to see what Nigerians are reacting on or what they are saying particularly. PX something says, relax, Tinubu is fixing Nigeria. And he said that, I think, about 5 or 6 times anyway. Favor Felix says, okay, that's, okay. Sunday Divine says, sir, please, advocation division of Nigeria to save Christians. I suggest that all Christians or good Muslims should become one country to fight these bandits that are trying to wipe out both Christians.
I think that's an unnecessary statement, because how do you divide Christians and put Muslims on side and then form a country? I mean, how do you do that? So you automatically stop being a Yoruba or stop being a Kanuri just because a country is to be divided because of religion. I think that, for me, is one of the things that is all next to impossible if there's anything like that. But it's a fine place to leave the show this morning. So thank you for joining us on this show. It has been a wonderful session out there. Do want to link up with us again tomorrow. Same time, same station, of course, same host. One thing is clear, that security is the responsibility of everyone. If you see something, it is quite simple. Say something. Whistleblowing should not be a crime. Of course, it is for your own safety when you blow the whistle. If you see a gathering that you do not trust, call the police. Samson Balogun is my name. Let's see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.
And I will say the only reason why insecurity and all of this will persist is that good men say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. My name is Anolo Akwedo, and on this wrap, bye for now.